On today's video, we are taking a look at one of my favorite Webflow builds in my entire portfolio to date, and that is going to be a website project I developed for a structural engineering firm called Patterson Engineering Inc. They are based in the southwestern portion of the United States with two office locations, one in beautiful, sunny San Diego, California, and then with another location based in Austin, Texas. Quick 1-minute background before we get into the screen recording portion of this video, which is going to take you through the entire strategy, design, and development phases of the project. This client originally came to me via a referral for another San Diego-based architecture studio I've been working with for a very long time called 1070 Architecture. I will link that case study above if you have any interest in checking that out. In this project, I had the opportunity to work with the marketing director of the firm over at Patterson Engineering, and this was great. I really do love working not only with business owners, of course, but also the marketing director of firms, because I find that they do have a very solid marketing, advertising type background, which is just very helpful for communicating ideas and just being in sync throughout the entire duration of the project. And then also in this case, this particular marketing director, the main client point of contact here, had a very good eye for design and was extremely thorough and helpful and really gave great feedback throughout the entire duration of the project. So I always love the opportunity to collaborate with a client like this because ultimately they are able to make the project even better, even if I had full control myself. This was actually my first time working with an engineering firm to design and develop a website, in this case, a structural engineering firm. So I really did enjoy the opportunity here to work with a different type of design firm than I normally do, which is primarily going to be architecture and interior design firms. It was also a great opportunity because many of the websites we looked at were very bland and boring and corporate. And I think by the time you have a chance to watch this whole video and see the website we developed, you will come away seeing that clearly the website we built is anything but those things. To kick things off, the way I handle every website build is to first, before we do any design or development work, first we always want to start with a strategy phase to ensure that we actually have a coherent marketing strategy that the website's going to feature so that we're ultimately able to generate leads and build something that's going to do more than just look pretty. So this is the presentation here. This is the agenda, as you can obviously see. So the way I will typically structure these strategy meetings is that number one, this is after me doing about 2 weeks or so of research on my own. I'll also generally hold an interview with a client just to learn more about their business, their marketing goals, the competitive landscape, things of that nature. And then I will break it down into an audit of their current website just so they know where they currently stand. Then we will talk about the marketing research and discovery work, and I will use this time to present the insights I've uncovered to the client and then get their opinions, feedback, things of that nature on it. And then finally, in this case, they were doing what I was calling a growth marketing roadmap. So they only signed on to do the strategy portion of the engagement of a website build before moving on to a full website build. And in this case, that's why I was recommending certain things before moving forward. And then of course, I always like to have a Q&A session so that the clients can get their questions answered and they can get as much value as possible from this strategy session. All right, so then scrolling on down, I introduced myself. I really don't like to talk about myself, so in this case, I just put some different logos of different brands I've worked at from different agencies, as well as my journey here as an entrepreneur. Like I said, we start with a website audit, and the way I like to do these typically is we'll just have different branding areas listed out, so design, color scheme, typography. Then I'll give them my neutral observation as if I was just a random prospective client coming to the website for the first time. Then I will give them my recommendation on what to do. And then finally, I will state what the impact of that recommendation, once implemented, will actually do. You'll see I did this here for the copy of the website as well. Copy is probably the most underrated aspect of a website, in my opinion, because ultimately it's the design that's going to draw people in and get them to engage, but it's the copy that's ultimately going to convert that traffic into leads for my client. So here I break down, after me reading through the website, what I thought about it, again, following the same observation, recommendation, impact formula. And then finally, I I do that from a UX perspective as well. So thinking about the content on the website and the layout and the CTAs and the offers, all that sort of stuff. How do I think that will impact the website's ability to generate leads? And this is all stuff that's going to obviously be taken into account once the design begins, which you'll see very soon when we look at the UX wireframes. You can see now that the website was quite outdated. As you can see, this was literally it. It was just a hero section. So they did not have a whole lot going on. It was a very old website that had not been touched in a while. In this case, you can actually see that most people, 80% or so, were primarily viewing the website on desktop. I would say that's primarily because this client is B2B. So they work with other architects primarily and other design professionals, builders. So they're not really working with consumers, and that makes sense because then a lot of office people during the day are going to be looking at their website. With that in mind, we settled on the idea that, as you'll see in the design phase, that we could develop a website that would have more bells, whistles, videos, lots of animations and effects, that we didn't need to be so concerned about the fact that it could end up in a slower website speed that might be optimal, but the fact that most people will be on their computers with a strong Wi-Fi connection, we would be able to push the envelope design-wise. And that, again, is just one of many insights, and that's why it's so important to have this website strategy session to kick off any website build. Here you can see, again, these are the screenshots of the website. It was literally just that hero section. Yeah, not a whole lot going on, I think it's safe to say. And you can see, though, it was actually loading fairly well, all things considered, considering there wasn't much to load, honestly, at this point. So then I also do a full technical crawl of the website just so that the client knows exactly how it's performing and how technically functional it is. In this case, there were lots of minor errors that all added up and was ultimately harming the client's SEO authority in this case. Then I finally sum it all up, as you can see here. Then we go into the research and discovery portion. So I give them an overview of where their current SEO rankings stand, and they can understand how this is impacting their website traffic. And then we just look at all the different sources it's coming from. This really helps the client get in more of a marketing frame of mind, I would say, because we don't want them necessarily to be just thinking about the website. The website ultimately, while it's extremely important, it's simply one piece of a larger marketing puzzle, if you will. So that's really what I try to get across here. Then I give them the more local traffic. All these stats I pull are pretty client specific. It's pretty specific on the project and what the goals are. So these presentations always look a little different. One thing that is not different, however, is the competitive research, which is extremely important. In this case, I was looking at several different firms here, pulling their analytics, pulling their SEO rankings. And then what I will generally do in this case is actually pull up these different websites with my clients, ask them what they know about them. Sometimes they know a lot about them, sometimes they never heard about them. In this case, the client had a pretty good understanding of what the local competitive landscape looked like. We were also looking at competitors from the two different markets that the client operates in. And then this is also just good because I can get some design inspiration and I can see what the client thinks about the design of their current websites here or the websites of their competitors. I do sum up the key takeaways, as you can see here, and just telling them how I think a website will impact their overall brand presence as well as their long-term marketing strategy. Here, I will outline an SEO researched sitemap, so explaining to them what a website build would look like and the potential traffic they could get from SEO. So this way they don't need to guess if SEO might be worth it. They can see based on the search volume for the services they provide and the difficulty, whether or not this would be a worthwhile marketing channel to pursue. Now keep in mind, this was in the middle of 2023 where this project was happening. So now at the start of 2025, I am decidedly less bullish on SEO because of all the AI developments and chatbots and things of that nature. I've made other YouTube videos on that in the past if you want to check it out. But definitely 2 years ago, it was much more. Also, as part of this roadmap engagement, we had a PPC research or Google Ads opportunity report. So based on a spreadsheet I put together, just seeing what exactly the traffic potential would be of a potential Google Ads campaign. And then you can see here I had different budgets, but you can see just back of the napkin calculations based on impressions, a good click-through rate, a good conversion rate, and average sale value, what the potential return on investment could be of a PPC Google Ads campaign. And then you can see here I summed it up as well in the spreadsheet. And then finally, based on all this, I give them my recommendations. So in this case, I recommend that we build out the essential pages in a phase 1 website build. Then The idea would be to pursue a marketing retainer, which is something I'm always going to recommend to clients, because you can build a great website, but if you don't have a plan for getting eyeballs to the website in terms of visitors, then it's probably not going to do a whole lot for your business from a marketing standpoint. And then out here, I argued that we should build a phase 2 into the project. So that would be all the non-essential pages that would be great to have, but we just don't have the time to do it in the time frame of the phase 1 build. I had more recommendations as well, just in all the typical stuff I will recommend to clients. And I also will explain what the client journey looks like in terms of the prospective client's position. I will link a video I made on this to further explain this topic. And then I try to add some humor with the question. Sometimes it goes over well, sometimes it doesn't. What can you do? And then next steps, I talk about everything. And then in this case, we had aligned on me sending over a proposal. The proposal was then signed, and then we are good to move right into the design phase of the project. Quick intermission here in the middle of the video. If you're enjoying this video and you're getting a lot of value out of it, and you own or work for a architecture, engineering, or interior design firm type company, and you would like to potentially collaborate with me on a new brand, website, or marketing campaign, then definitely feel free to select the link in the description where there's going to be a quick form. You can quickly submit the details of your project and your company, and if I think we're a good fit to work together, I will reach out directly to you to schedule a one-to-one consultation with myself. And the consultation, just so you're aware, is not a sales pitch. We will not be looking at any sort of pitch decks or anything of that nature. It's a very simple, straightforward, casual, informative conversation where I will take the time to learn more about your company, and based on all the insights you provide me, I will outline a brand, website, and marketing roadmap so you can ultimately achieve your goals. Link in the description if you want to check out that interactive video form we have. Without further ado, let's get back into the video. So now you are looking at the UX wireframes of the website project. So you can see here I separated it out by the static pages, which always remain the same, and then the dynamic pages where these are templates, so a job application, a portfolio page where the content is going to be different, but that is built using the Webflow CMS. So here you can see at a high level, I will provide all the copy to the clients, as you can see here, so everything is well written here, and then they can see the layout of every single page. And this way, before we move into high fidelity UI design, which is what we'll take a look at next, they're able to get a very clear picture of all the content that's going to be on the website. They're going to be able to see exactly what it says, and they're going to just know the overall layout of every single page on the website. This makes it a lot easier for them to provide feedback ultimately, and you can see within Figma, you're able to leave comments. This client was very hands-on. Sometimes clients aren't, sometimes they are. I'm pretty much cool with whatever way they want to go, honestly. Both ways are beneficial to the project and the way I like to work. In this case, it was very helpful to have my clients' feedback, and you can see one of the cool things about Figma is that not only can you preview these pages very realistically, but you're able to leave comments, and it's very easy to collaborate that way. I don't want to pull up any of the comments because this is private. You can see here we had all the different pages and content sections built out. So this makes it very easy for the client to provide feedback. Then we go into the final UI wireframe. So these are going to be the fully mocked up versions of the website. And as you'll see after here, this is all like static. You can only animate and do things so much in Figma, but this was the layout we had aligned on. So as you can see, number one, it's worth calling out that the client had hired a branding specialist at the start of the project before I had become involved. So they already had a new logo, color scheme, fonts, typography, all the brand styling elements, and they also had done a lot of brand strategy research. So they already did have a coherent brand message and marketing message as well. So in this case, that was very helpful. I'm cool to collaborate either way, whether they want me to do the branding work or I come in after someone else has already handled that. Either's cool with me. There's pros and cons to both ways. So in this case, it was very helpful because I didn't really need to worry about picking out the color scheme or the fonts that was already chosen. In this case, I definitely did like the color scheme the client had chosen because it was very varied. It was very earthy, but it was also still very eye-catching and warm, and ultimately stands out dramatically from the competition, which is always fantastic. I would argue that is step number one to having marketing success, is being differentiated within the local market. So as you can see here, these are different revisions here, and in this particular website build, actually a lot of changes end up happening in development, which is totally fine. Sometimes that's just the way it goes, but I hope you can see here by looking at these designs. We'll take a look at the live website quickly after this, but I hope you can see here how helpful it is that we first start off with the high level UX wireframes, and then we eventually, once we finish the copywriting and the finalized layout. We then move into the actual digital design of the website. So this way it's very easy for clients to follow along, provide feedback, which is ultimately going to benefit the project, of course. And then you can see here, portfolio. So in this case, we really wanted to highlight the excellent photography that the client had. This is a big mistake I see on lots of different architecture or interior design, or in this case, structural engineering websites, that many times these firms will have great photography, but it'll be hidden by very small project thumbnails and just a lack of imagery in general. So now let's go on to the actual live website. As you can see here, this is how it came out. You can see when it first loads, we have a cool staggered text animation. Then we go right into this very captivating video, and then we're highlighting the fact that it was actually an award-winning project. So scrolling on right down, we have some fast facts about the business. Then we have a new team photo that slides in, and then we have the portfolio right away. When people hover, they get the names, but otherwise we are really staying focused on the project photography in this case, very minimalist. You also may notice that there is this like granite or this like quartz, perhaps you could say, a texture in the back. It goes very well with the rest of the color scheme on the website. Always worth adding some textures to websites because that adds a much more bespoke, high-end, premium feel and just adds a lot more visual interest to the website. And it'll be very clear to people that you didn't just purchase a template and call it a day. You actually hired a professional to build a really awesome website for you. Then we have testimonials. Here we decided to go with this auto scrolling design because it's very captivating. And I believe we maybe didn't have as many originally for launch anyway. So in this case, this kind of hides the fact that people aren't able to tell how many testimonials there are. I think eventually we added more, but at first we weren't sure how many there would be. So if you only have 6 or 7 testimonials for launch of a website, this is definitely a little trick you can use, some sort of layout like this. Then we have this career section right below. We will take a look at that later on because using the website as a place to attract high quality talent in both markets was definitely one of the big marketing goals of the website. And then we have a CTA here for people to get in touch. Let's go to the About page then. Now, many times it can be hard to create the About pages, but the client here had invested in a brand. They had all these values ready to go. So in this case, it was very simple to put all this together and make it look very good. We also added these employee bios here. This is all connected to the Webflow CMS, so it's very easy to update in the back end. And then if someone wants to learn more about a particular individual, they can hover over this view bio, then the photo changes color, and then a pop-up will go up of a modal, and then they can close it and do the same for other people on the website, which is very cool, of course. Then we have a CTA section for people to actually get involved with the firm in a employment capacity. Then we have this cool slideshow type effect, you could call it, where we have different cultural team building type events being highlighted, as well as like award ceremonies intermingled with high-end project photography here. Then going on to the awards page. So the firm had won a lot of awards, and this was something that the client wanted to highlight, obviously. So again, with this slideshow design, I think looks very sleek. It's a good way to add in more photography. Then they were also featured in a lot of different publications, as you can see here, many of them very well known. And then there was also these press features we highlighted here, as you can see. This is all connected to the Webflow CMS, so if the client ever wanted to add more, it'd be very easy for them to do. Then we highlight all the different awards here. This is the president of the firm, and then just a nice photo to break things up. In this case, is very artsy and stylistic. Testimonials once again, and then if people want to leave their email address and subscribe, they can do that here. Going on to the careers page, so you can see we were really going with this slideshow animated feature here. I think this is just such a sleek way to add a lot more visual interest. It's not something on a lot of websites, but it allows us to get in a lot of different photography where other sections would not have allowed us to do that. So career page, we highlight the perks of working at this particular firm in terms of the benefits, and then we have different job openings. This is tied into the Webflow CMS, so very easy for the client to go in and add these if they want to. However, they have kept me on for a website management engagement, so I'm the one who typically will end up doing this. And then people can apply right on the website. This way, the client can send out links to jobs directly from their website. They don't need to go through third-party tools like Indeed, and then people can upload their resume, cover letter, type in a message, etc. And then we restate the benefits here on this page. So going on to the services now, a bit more about what the firm does. You can see we have very engaging headlines that are really speaking to the value proposition the firm provides to its prospective clients, which is very important. Many times these websites for companies, they just talk about themselves, but the client doesn't really care about your firm necessarily, at least not yet. They care more about their problems and their pain points, their frustrations. So better to talk to that. It's like a Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people way to approach things. And I find that is much more effective from a marketing standpoint. Here you can see we're calling out directly what types of projects the firm can help with. Always very helpful and beneficial in my view. Then we also have the process highlighted, which again, I think is always something worth highlighting in these design firm websites because clients want to know what they're getting into before they actually contact you for a consultation. And the more questions they have in their mind before that consultation, the less likely ultimately they are to get in touch with you. And so you can see we really do have a lot of beautiful photography here, and that's why it's used to separate a lot of different sections. And then we have a very simple CTA for people to get in touch about a particular project. Now let's go on to the portfolio. So I'm going to say that this is probably my favorite headline right here. The client actually came up with it. I had nothing to do with it. So there we go. Then we have the projects lined up here. Again, all fantastic photography. Let's click on this one. They all have the same layout though. We'll have the project name. Then we have this cool effect where on all the different portfolio projects, it has like this slide over and then zoom effect. You can see we also got rid of the main nav on these, and if someone wants to get back to the main website, they can click that button. But this just makes it a whole lot more immersive in my view, so that was the design decision in that case. And then of course we have a gallery grid of the different projects, but here there's also a ability to open them up in a Lightbox slideshow where people can use your keyboard even to scroll through these, and it's just a much more immersive and interactive way to do things. And then that is pretty much it. And then we have more additional projects as well here, as you can see, and then they all have the same layout. Here we also have fast facts as well, which are all a bit different based on the project. So a lot of that is built on conditional visibility, where if there are those details, they have them. This is a beautiful shot, obviously. And then if certain professionals were not needed on a particular project, then it's very easy to just hide them from the layout. So that is that. And then the last page worth going over would be the contact page. Very simple here. We have different social links. The client is pretty active on social media, which is great. And then you can see here, we have the different contact avenues as well as different office locations. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that is the case study video here. I hope you got a lot of value out of it, and I hope it was both educational and entertaining. I would love to hear from you in the comments, so if you have anything you would like to add or any questions, feel free to drop a comment here on YouTube and I will get back to you whenever my time permits. Otherwise, if you work for a similar firm or perhaps you even own a similar type of design firm, definitely feel free to get in touch with myself to discover how we could potentially revamp your brand and website to ultimately achieve your company's marketing and sales goals. That's it for me in this one. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy. Bye.